In an increasingly interconnected world, international diplomacy and economic collaboration are pivotal for fostering stability and growth. Recent developments between China and Latin America have highlighted the significance of these relationships, particularly in the face of geopolitical challenges. On May 13, 2025, Chinese President Xi Jinping hosted Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva in Beijing, marking a significant moment in the evolving partnership between the two nations. This meeting coincided with Colombia's signing of a cooperation pact under China's Belt and Road Initiative (BRI), further underscoring China's expanding influence in the region. During their discussions at the Great Hall of the People, Xi Jinping emphasized the historical significance of the 50-year diplomatic relationship between China and Brazil, which has now been elevated to a China-Brazil community with a shared future. He stated, "As we stand at a new historical starting point, we must deepen our strategic mutual trust and enhance cooperation across various sectors." This sentiment reflects a broader strategy not only to strengthen bilateral ties but also to align with Brazil's development goals, particularly through the BRI, which seeks to enhance infrastructure and trade connectivity. President Lula echoed these sentiments, underscoring Brazil's commitment to collaborating with China on economic strategies and mutual development. Brazil and China uphold mutual respect and share a common future, he asserted. Lula's remarks highlight Brazil's desire to learn from China's successes, especially in poverty alleviation, and to promote cultural exchanges that can foster deeper ties between the two peoples. The diplomatic discussions also addressed the need for multilateral cooperation, particularly in the context of global governance challenges. Both leaders agreed that Brazil and China, as significant developing nations, should stand together against unilateralism and protectionism, which they argue lead to global instability. Protectionism and the abuse of tariffs will not bring development and prosperity but only lead to chaos, Lula noted, emphasizing Brazil's willingness to collaborate with China in international affairs to safeguard the interests of the global South. The meeting culminated in the signing of 20 cooperation agreements covering a wide range of sectors, including science and technology, agriculture, finance, and the digital economy. This robust framework aims to enhance practical cooperation and provide a foundation for future initiatives, ensuring that both nations can effectively navigate the complexities of the international landscape. Simultaneously, Colombia's recent signing of a cooperation agreement with China under the BRI further illustrates China's growing engagement in Latin America. This pact is expected to facilitate infrastructure development and enhance trade ties, positioning Colombia as a key player in the BRI's expansive network. As these collaborations unfold, they signal a shift in the geopolitical balance, with Latin American countries increasingly looking towards China for investment and partnership opportunities. As the international community watches these developments, the implications for global trade, regional stability, and the geopolitical landscape are profound. The strengthening of ties between China and Latin America not only promises economic benefits but also raises questions about the future of U.S. influence in the region. Both China and Brazil's commitment to multilateralism and shared development will likely shape the dynamics of international cooperation in the years to come. In conclusion, the recent meetings between China and Brazil, along with Colombia's engagement in the Belt and Road Initiative, mark a significant step towards a more interconnected and cooperative global landscape. As these partnerships continue to evolve, they will provide valuable insights into the future of international relations, particularly in the context of emerging economies. The world will be watching closely to see how these collaborations unfold and the impact they will have on global governance and economic stability. In a significant geopolitical development, Colombia has officially joined China's ambitious Belt and Road Initiative (BRI), a move that underscores the intensifying competition between China and the United States for influence in Latin America. This agreement, signed on May 13, 2025 during a ministerial summit in Beijing, marks a pivotal shift in Colombia's foreign policy and reflects the broader strategic maneuvering in the region as the U.S. seeks to maintain its foothold amid rising Chinese investments. Chinese President Xi Jinping welcomed Colombian President Gustavo Petro and other Latin American leaders at the fourth ministerial meeting of the Forum of China and Community of Latin American and Caribbean States (CELAC). Colombia's foreign ministry characterized the agreement as a historic step which it believes will open doors for investment, technological cooperation, and sustainable development. From now on, Colombia will interact with the entire world on a footing of equality and freedom, Petro declared on social media following the signing. The BRI, a cornerstone of Xi's strategy to expand China's global influence, promises extensive investment in infrastructure and development projects across participating nations. Over the past decade, this initiative has successfully drawn in a majority of Latin American countries, with 2/3 of them now aligned with China's vision. Notably, China has surpassed the United States as the largest trading partner for several key Latin American economies, including Brazil, Peru, and Chile. During discussions with Petro, she emphasized the opportunity for enhanced cooperation, urging both nations to capitalize on Colombia's new role within the BRI framework. The Chinese government views this partnership as a pathway to deepen political and economic ties which have steadily grown over the years. Last year, she inaugurated Latin America's first Beijing-funded port in Chancay, Peru, further cementing China's economic presence in the region. The timing of Colombia's accession to the BRI is particularly noteworthy against the backdrop of rising tensions between the U.S. and China. The United States has been pressuring Latin American countries to align with its interests, particularly in light of concerns over Chinese investments in critical infrastructure. This pressure has been highlighted by U.S. initiatives aimed at countering perceived Chinese overreach, such as the focus on the Panama Canal, where U.S. officials have expressed apprehension regarding Chinese influence. China's position at the CELAC summit was framed as that of a defender of multilateralism and a supporter of developing nations. She committed to providing $9.2 billion in credit for development projects alongside pledges of cooperation in counterterrorism and combating organized crime. As staunch defenders of multilateralism and free trade, China and Chile should strengthen multilateral coordination, she stated, echoing sentiments shared with other regional leaders during the forum. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, also present at the summit, cautioned against the emergence of a new Cold War, emphasizing the necessity for Latin America to remain an asset to the multilateral order. This sentiment reflects a growing desire among Latin American nations to navigate their relationships with both superpowers, carefully balancing economic benefits while safeguarding their sovereignty. Looking ahead, Colombia's participation in the BRI could herald a new era of economic collaboration with potential implications for regional dynamics. As the U.S. and China continue to vie for dominance in Latin America, the outcomes of these partnerships will likely shape the geopolitical landscape for years to come. The success of the BRI in Colombia and other nations will depend not only on the economic opportunities it presents, but also on how these countries manage their relationships with both Beijing and Washington in an increasingly multipolar world. In a dramatic turn of events, the ongoing trade tensions between the United States and China have seen a significant thaw as the Trump administration announced a temporary reduction in tariffs. This latest development, while celebrated by market analysts, has left small businesses in the U.S. grappling with the lingering effects of high tariffs that remain in place, drawing mixed reactions from various sectors. On May 12, 2025, President Trump unveiled a plan to slash tariffs on Chinese goods from a staggering 145% to 30% for 90 days. A gesture aimed at easing economic strains and fostering trade relations. The announcement sent shockwaves through the stock market, with the S&P 500 surging nearly 3.3% and the tech-heavy Nasdaq rising by 4.3%. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent emphasized the desire from both nations to avoid a complete economic decoupling, stating neither side wants a decoupling. "We do want trade." This sentiment reflects a growing consensus among policymakers that the high tariffs imposed had begun to feel akin to an embargo, creating tension and uncertainty for businesses on both sides. Despite the optimism surrounding the tariff pause, small businesses have expressed concern that the changes will not provide the relief they desperately need. Heidi Krieber-Rediker, a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, described the situation as a huge nightmare to navigate, indicating that the current tariff levels are still historically high and continue to pressure profit margins. Many small businesses that rely on importing goods from China are still facing challenges with limited time to receive new orders within the 90-day window. Compounding the issue is the recent executive order that reduced the de minimis tariff on small packages from China, which now stands at 54%, a significant drop from the previous rate of 120%. This adjustment, while beneficial for certain e-commerce operations, may still leave many in the retail sector struggling to cope with the transition. Analysts suggest that companies like Foxconn, a major electronics manufacturer, are already feeling the pinch, downgrading their full-year outlook due to the uncertainty tied to tariffs. In the automotive sector, the impact of tariffs is starkly visible. Major players such as Honda and Nissan have reported substantial losses attributed to the increased costs of imported parts, leading to workforce reductions and profit forecast cuts. Honda has projected a 70% drop in net profits for the upcoming financial year, while Nissan has announced plans to slash 15% of its global workforce. These developments underscore the pervasive nature of the tariff implications, which have reverberated through various industries beyond just technology and consumer goods. Nevertheless, not all news is bleak. The temporary truce has also paved the way for renewed dialogues on other trade fronts. The US has recently secured a trade deal with the UK, marking its first major agreement following the imposition of tariffs. As negotiations continue, there is cautious optimism that the automotive industry might also soon receive a reprieve from tariffs, with analysts suggesting that these discussions could lead to beneficial outcomes for both US automakers and consumers. As the dust settles on this latest announcement, the global economic landscape remains deeply intertwined. The short-term pause in heightened tariffs offers a glimmer of hope, yet many stakeholders are left wondering how sustainable this newfound cooperation will be. With President Trump indicating that tariffs could be reinstated or even increased if negotiations fail, small businesses and larger corporations alike will be closely monitoring the upcoming discussions. The next few weeks will be critical in determining whether this trade truce represents a new chapter in US-China relations or merely a temporary lull in a protracted economic struggle. In recent weeks, the geopolitical landscape in Asia has shifted notably, particularly following the latest military confrontations between Pakistan and India. These developments have not only intensified regional tensions but have also served to bolster the credibility of Chinese weaponry on the global stage. As both nations engaged in artillery exchanges and airspace violations, observers noted a marked increase in the confidence surrounding the capabilities offered by Chinese defense systems, particularly in light of their involvement in the ongoing conflicts. The recent clashes between Pakistan and India have highlighted the potential for escalation in South Asia, prompting a renewed examination of military alliances and arms procurement strategies among neighboring countries. Analysts suggest that the skirmishes have provided a real-world test of Chinese military equipment, which has been gaining traction with nations seeking to modernize their arsenals. China's weapons technologies are being viewed through a new lens, noted a defense analyst from a prominent think tank. Countries are increasingly looking to Beijing not just for economic cooperation but for reliable military partnerships as well. This shift comes at a time when the United States' assertive military posture in the Indo-Pacific region has led to concerns among its allies about balancing relationships with both Washington and Beijing. As the U.S. continues to pivot its military focus toward Asia, countries like India and Pakistan find themselves reassessing their defense strategies. The ongoing conflict has inadvertently positioned Chinese arms manufacturers favorably as nations explore alternatives to traditional suppliers. Moreover, the diplomatic ramifications of the India-Pakistan conflict extend beyond military considerations. China has been actively engaged in fostering relationships with countries in the region, leveraging the turmoil to present itself as a stabilizing force. In a recent meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and Colombian President Gustavo Petro, discussions emphasized China's commitment to economic cooperation and security partnerships. This move underscores Beijing's strategy of expanding its influence across different continents while firmly maintaining its territorial claims in Asia. Despite the apparent advantages for China, experts warned that the credibility of its military offerings will be tested further as regional tensions persist. While the situation in South Asia may initially boost the perception of Chinese military capabilities, the real test will be how these systems perform under actual combat conditions, cautioned another defense expert. The stakes are high, as the outcomes of such confrontations could either validate China's defense export strategy or lead to significant reputational damage in the international arena. As the dust settles from the recent clashes, all eyes will be on how the geopolitical chessboard will evolve. The interplay between military capability and diplomatic maneuvering will likely shape the future of alliances in Asia. China's growing military presence and its ability to offer advanced weaponry could shift the balance of power in ways that are not yet fully understood. With both the United States and China vying for influence, the coming months will be critical in determining the strategic landscape of the region. In this rapidly changing environment, nations will have to carefully navigate their relationships, balancing defense needs with the intricacies of international diplomacy. In an era marked by shifting geopolitical landscapes, China has signaled its aspirations for a golden decade in relations with Latin America and the Caribbean. This ambitious outlook was articulated following a recent forum in Beijing with the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States (CELAC), a 33-member bloc aimed at fostering collaboration across various sectors. As both China and the United States vie for influence in the region, Beijing's commitment to strengthening ties with Latin American countries is increasingly seen as a strategic maneuver to counterbalance U.S. dominance. The forum, which concluded on May 14, 2025, was a significant gathering where both parties expressed their support for free trade and a more democratic international order. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian emphasized the importance of mutual support in addressing core interests. "We believe the China-CELAC Forum will firmly stride into its next golden decade, opening a new chapter of the Global South's solidarity," Lin stated, aligning with sentiments from China's top diplomat Wang Yi, who characterized the event as a complete success. This push for deeper engagement comes at a time when the US-China trade war has raised questions about the future of global economics and diplomacy. China's strategy appears to be a proactive response to the tariffs and foreign policy initiatives spearheaded by the US under previous administrations, particularly during Donald Trump's tenure. As the US navigates its own complex relationships in the region, China's outreach could redefine the balance of power in Latin America and the Caribbean. In his meeting with Chilean President Gabriel Boric, Xi Jinping underscored the importance of enhancing the comprehensive strategic partnership between Chile and China. Notably, this year marks the 55th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the two nations, providing a historical context for their current collaboration. She urged both countries to implement the Belt and Road Cooperation Plan, deepen collaboration in various sectors, and support each other's core interests, particularly in areas like agriculture, technology, and infrastructure. Boric echoed Xi's sentiments, highlighting Chile's position as China's most significant trading partner in Latin America. He reaffirmed Chile's commitment to the One China principle and emphasized the importance of multilateralism and free trade. "Waging a trade war leads nowhere," Boric remarked, further illustrating a shared understanding of the need for cooperative economic frameworks amidst global tensions. The implications of this burgeoning partnership extend beyond bilateral trade. They reflect a broader ambition within China to enhance its role as a leader in the global South. By framing its engagement with Latin American nations through the lens of mutual benefit and respect for sovereignty, China is positioning itself as a counterweight to U.S. hegemony in the region. This not only enhances China's soft power but also creates new avenues for economic growth and cultural exchange, which are vital for both parties in a rapidly changing global landscape. As the world watches these developments unfold, the potential for a golden decade in Sino-Latin American relations raises questions about the future trajectory of regional politics and economics. The interdependence formed through trade and diplomatic initiatives may yield significant benefits, but it also presents challenges as nations navigate the complexities of global power dynamics. The success of this partnership will ultimately depend on both China's ability to maintain its commitments and the receptiveness of Latin American countries to engage in a multipolar world where diplomatic relations are increasingly intertwined with economic realities. In conclusion, the outlook for China and Latin America appears optimistic, yet fraught with challenges. As both regions seek to capitalize on their growing ties, the coming years will likely reveal the depth of their commitment to a shared vision of development and cooperation, setting the stage for a potentially transformative era in international relations.